Roll for Crit is supported by our friends on Patreon. Come join the High Rollers at patreon.com/rollforcrit. Welcome to this Roll for Crit review. Today, we're taking a look at the board game Holi, Festival of Colors. This board game is based on the ancient Hindu festival of spring, in which it is celebrating the fact that winter is coming to an end, spring is returning, and good has triumphed over evil. This festival has spread throughout the world, become very popular, and this game focuses on what most people know, the throwing color at each other, usually in the form of water balloons. In this game, your goal is to spread the most joy by spreading your color not only on the streets, but on the rooftops above.
This is what the game is going to look like when it's all set up, with these 3 layers in a tower. Each player will have their own unique colored animal piece that will start in one of the 4 corners of the board, and they will have their own set of colored tokens and color cards that they'll be playing from throughout the game. We are going to zoom in now on just the first level of the game in order to explain the basic rules to you. On your turn, you will choose a color card from your hand to play. On that card is a grid of a 3x3 square, and 3 of the squares in that grid are highlighted. You will need to choose one of those cards, and your animal piece will take the place of one of those colored in squares, while the other 2 are going to be where you will place 2 of your color tokens. If you cannot get yourself into that position, then you cannot play that card. Some of those cards are special. They have a unique symbol and 3 squares that are colored in. In that instance, your token, your wooden piece, gets to go in that special space, and you get to add 3 different colored tokens to the field in the orientation as indicated on the card. If one of your color tokens hits a space with another player, then it doesn't go on the board. They take that piece, and you'll get some points for it at the end of the game. You can also play one of your cards face down instead, which allows you to take one of your color tokens and simply place it any free space available on the board. You might do this if you don't have any other good options available. However, you can't do it twice in a row. Optionally, on your turn, you can also move your piece. This can be before or after you play your card. If you move onto a space with a token, you're going to collect it. So that could be one of your own colored pieces or someone else's, or a sweet token, which will give you points at the end of the game if you manage to collect enough of them. As the game goes on, more and more of those color tokens are going to be on the field, making placement more difficult. You're also going to be keeping in mind the rule and scoring cards that might be in play. In each game, you're going to have a couple of different ones. These are going to change how things are scored, and they might even give you some extra options, different actions that you can take during your turn. The last action you can optionally take on your turn is ascending to the next level. You are only able to do this if you can get into a spot that is completely surrounded by colored tokens. Doesn't matter what color those tokens are, but you must be surrounded by them and not an edge in order to go up to the next floor.
All these actions can be taken in any order, so if you find yourself surrounded by colors, whether it's yours or your opponent's, at the start of your turn, because you set up with your own color cards, or you moved onto a space for that. Afterwards, when you ascend, you will take your piece and move to the next level. As you can see in this situation, I've ascended here and to the second level, where I continue playing cards. Now, the new rule is once you have gone up to a next level, should you ever place one of your colored tokens, let's say I placed it here, you must look at the same space below. If there's already a piece there, it stays there. But if a piece were to go here, since the space below is empty, it will fall down to that level and keep going until it's a legal placement. You'll continue playing, eventually probably making your way up to the 3rd floor to place more of your colored tokens until each player has run out of color tokens to play and or color cards to play. Once that is done, you will calculate your points. Ignoring the special cards you're going to have in play, you'll get 3 points for every color token on the 3rd floor, 2 for the 2nd floor, and 1 for the 1st floor. You will also get 5 points for every player who has less sweet tokens than you. So the more of these you collect, the more likely you're going to get more points. You're also going to score points for the color tokens other people have in your color, as well as any other special cards you have. Whoever has gotten the most joy, aka points, is the winner.
Obviously, as you can see, the big specialty, the selling point of this game, I think, is the fact that you have this 3-dimensional layered vertical setup with multiple boards on it. It is at its core kind of just a traditional abstract strategy game, but it's literally those layers that add more literally depth to the game and make it stand out from so many others, while still, I think, retaining that abstract experience that people like about abstract games. But it's definitely the thing that makes this stand out on a table, makes you stop and go, whoa, what is that? And then also, it's not just a gimmick. I do think that while you're playing it, it changes the way you're thinking at it. The different angles that you're looking at it from do really affect what your potential strategies are going to be.
Mechanically speaking, just before we even get to the special rule cards, at first you just start playing cards like, yeah, I can make this diagonal. But once you think on like, oh wait, I can rotate these cards too, and I can move first and probably get up a level, and then I place this, and that makes that fall down there. The whole level system isn't just like, I get it. I can go up and down. I can go up. You cannot go down. It really changes the way you think about placing these things and be like, oh, I want to get more on this level so my things can stay up above, or like, I'll let my opponent stay down there more so I can get more above him, because then my colors will not fall because his colors will block it.
It's not something that you see in very many games. It really does feel like at times you are playing like the 3D chess from Star Trek. It kind of has that feel to it. At the same time, it is this very approachable, relatively simple game. And the way that you are working through it, beyond just the 3D layers, as you said, choosing which card to play and deciding how can I rotate them. And also, I think what's very interesting about this game is how the dynamic changes from the early game to the late game, in that when it starts out, you can move anywhere and the field is very open. No one has done a lot yet, so your options are almost limitless as to how you can set up your moves. And then as the game progresses, more and more color pieces are spread around, and it becomes much harder for you to use your cards as efficiently as possible. Do you want to throw them onto someone? Do you want to try to get a spot where you can get on a sweet space? And also deciding when is it time to move up to that next level, which is a big decision, because if you get there early, that could be good. You get the chance to be there first and to put your colors down before anyone else. But if you're too early, maybe your colors will just fall to the level below. Maybe people haven't done enough down there. There aren't people up there for you to throw your color onto and get more points that way. It's a very interesting balance that also, I think, is significantly affected by the players themselves and what pace they choose to go at too.
And just the way that you could have to think about those points, because you get more points by putting them on the top levels, but at the bottom level, because they're not as much, you're like, well, hitting my opponent, which makes sense if you think about the festival of throwing colors onto people on the streets, like that's more rewarding. When you get to the top, like, no, I want everyone to know green player was here. And then, of course, once you've thrown those new rules or scoring cards, that's going to completely change the game. We've had matches where you get more points, like 2 times for throwing at another player. So we're like, all right, my goal is to just keep throwing them at you and cover you in my color. When we've got other ones that are like, you want to get more points for making sure your colors are over each other, not just over your opponents. So you start planning out like, okay, I'm going to have like this column here and then this column here. And oh, I can get another one by throwing my color over there. And just completely changes your mindset, combined with, as we were saying earlier, just the 3D principle.
Yeah, the rules and scoring cards really shift the way that the game plays. And I think without those, Holi, it's already a pretty solid abstract strategy game. Like, even just having the 3D layers and very basic gameplay, not adding those cards in at all if you didn't want to, I think you have a solid and almost a more pure kind of abstract game.
Which you can play it that way. You don't have to use the cards. They even say, like, you can use them. 2, like, we suggest 2, you can go up to 3. So it's really adjusted the way you want to see fit.
But I think it's when you throw them in, it's sort of in the similar way. There's the game Santorini, where I think it's like, it's a solid abstract game, and then you can also add in these special power cards that will change things up. And in similar way, that those cards really make it so just little changes that I mean, there are new rules from the rules cards, but they're very small, and they're like just enough to totally warp the way you want to play the game, but they don't overcomplicate. They don't add a ton of extra stuff that you need to keep
you're
track
not getting
of.
new pieces and keywords. You're not like, all right, now we've added a 5th level, but it's over to the right or something. It's simply just changing the way you're thinking and the strategies you're going to be playing with. Without them, like you said, I still think it's a solid game, but I think those rule cards take Holi from like being, I would almost compare it to something like checkers, chess, that sort of abstract, similar rules, to something that the chaos of the colors will ensue depending on what cards come out. Crits and misses for Holi, Festival of Colors.
Crits. The three-dimensional layered board isn't just a gimmick, it adds depth to the game and allows it to go beyond the scope of a traditional abstract title.
The simple rules combined with the complex board allows for an easy game to get into with still complex strategies.
The different rules and scoring cards that come out each game have a huge impact on the overall feel of the gameplay without making it overly complicated.
The basic rules are fun, but once you throw in those extra scoring or rules cards, you'll never know what's going to happen. Misses. We love the 3D board, but unfortunately we felt like there were a couple times where, even with the guides at the edge of the board, we weren't 100% sure where a piece would end up or if it would fall down to the lower levels.
Depending on your angle at the table and the number of players, sometimes things can get lost in the shuffle and you might not be able to perfectly work out what your next move should be. Holi is a game from 2020 that we missed out on the chance to play last year, but I really enjoyed our time with it this year. It's published by Floodgate Games, who also made Sagrada, and I think it fits perfectly into that category of game. If you like things like Sagrada or Azul, those types of games that are more on the abstract side, but with an entertaining, visual, colorful aesthetic to enjoy, this does that sort of thing. Abstract games aren't always our favorites, but when done really well, and when they have something like this, which has a lot of varieties, so there's more to it than just memorizing a strategy and maximizing that version of the game in your head, that really surprises me, and I really enjoyed this one for sure.
I feel like the calling the victory points joy works really well in this game, because I almost just felt like each time being like, oh, how am I gonna, oh, there's the pattern I'm gonna get, like. And yeah, there is some like throwing at each player, but I never felt like I was feeling too aggressive, especially as you go up to, you're like, no, I just want to get this line here or this. And, you're like, oh, I can't play this card. And then when you just rotate, you're like, it fits in perfectly. It's like finding almost a puzzle piece that just fits into like a circle. It just feels like a lot of fun to just mess around. And when those new rules come out, because of that, you never felt like, well, I'm going to do this strategy again of like rushing to the top or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables at play, and it's definitely not too aggressive of a game. The player interaction comes from what you and your fellow players are adding to the board and how. And like you said, you can throw color on each other, but it doesn't impact you really in any way. It just gives them points. So it's a kind of a friendlier game in that way, and doesn't take too long to play either. 20 to 40 minutes is the box time, which I think is pretty accurate. So if you're looking for a game that's good for, I think, families or seasoned gamers who like abstract games of this style, check out Holi. Maybe play it on the day of the Festival of Colors, which is March 28th, at least this year. I'm not sure if it moves or not. You'll have to look into that and find out, depending on what year you're in. But we both recommend it. Let us know in the comment section if this is one that you had the chance to play and what you liked about it. Maybe tell us what your favorite combination of scoring and rules cards are that you maybe prefer to play with.
Love to hear from you. Until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Roll for Crit.
If you want to help out, you can check out our Patreon, or a simple click to like and subscribe can go a long way.
We really appreciate everything that you can do for us. We love you.